All right, it's time for us to create a progressive web app using our RoboFriends. Now, instead of using the RoboFriends app, it is the RoboFriends app, but I just named it differently so that, well, I've been recording for a really long time today, and this is what I do to entertain myself. If you get the Zoolander reference, well then I'm glad that you do. If you haven't, make sure you watch that movie. It's great. Anyway, I have the RoboFriends app here, and there's nothing different than anything we've seen before. If I run npm start, we have our RoboFriends. Perfect. But Bruno asked us to make this into a progressive web app. How can we do this? The very first thing we need to do is to actually put this online. We can't just make it a progressive web app locally since we won't be able to test it on Lighthouse. So the very first thing, I have the RoboFriends app here with an amazing name, but we want to have the GitHub Pages link here so that it's actually online. With a React app, with a Create React app, it's a little difficult because, well, there's no index.js file. I mean, there is, but it's in the public folder. And so it isn't as simple as just going into settings and clicking Create GitHub Pages. We have to do a little bit of work. So let's do that first. I'm going to make this a little smaller. And we don't need this, so let's clean this up. Now, actually, the very first thing we want to do is to install a package. And this package is going to be, let me just make this bigger so you can see the name. It's called GH Pages for GitHub Pages. So you just do npm install GH Pages so that we have this tool to allow us to deploy onto GitHub Pages. So if we check back on to package.json, we see that we have GitHub Pages installed. The next thing we want to do with GitHub Pages is to run a deploy command. By us being able to run npm run deploy, it's going to deploy to GitHub Pages. And the way we do that is fairly simple. We have a deploy command. And this deploy command is going to have GH Pages, and we're going to build. So we're going to run the build command to build our files. And make sure we add a comma here. And then before this deploy, in npm scripts, you can do the pre syntax, and pre command name means before whatever command, run this. So in our case, before deploy, so pre-deploy, we're going to say npm run build. And by the way, this is actually in the documentation of Create React app. So you can check out the GitHub Pages deploy section, and you'll get detailed description of what's happening here. All right. Let's save this, and the last piece of the puzzle is that with Create React app, we need to create within package.json the homepage property. And here we have to state where our homepage is going to be. And you want to have it attached to your username. So we're going to say HTTPS. In my case, this is my GitHub username. .github.io. And then finally, your repo name. In my case, the obnoxiously long repo name. We're going to add it over here and make sure we add the comma at the end. Let's save that. Let's run npm run deploy. npm run deploy. It's going to create the build folder. And you can see over here, it has created our app for us with index.html and all of our necessary files in the static folder. So JavaScript, any media files, any CSS files. And we see that it's been published. And the folder is ready to be deployed at this link. Now, the last thing we need to do is to go to GitHub and in the settings page, scroll down all the way to the GitHub pages and make sure that this branch, the GitHub pages branch, is not on master, is not on docs, but it's on the GitHub pages branch, which we've deployed. And you can see that we already have a check mark saying that your site is published at this link. So let's click here. And there you go. We have our app, our Create React app, deployed on GitHub pages. We have free hosting. Very cool. And we have this great long URL. Now we can test our app on Lighthouse. So let's do that. I'm going to click and say Generate Report. And as we know, Lighthouse is going to test everything, see how it works online, see what our time to first paint is, time to interactive, and just generally figure out how good of a progressive web app are we. Looking at this, the score's not that bad. We have SEO 89%, accessibility 80%, progressive web app 82%, performance 92%, best practices 100%. That's awesome. That's great. But not everything's 100, and especially progressive web app is not 100. We want to get this to, well, the perfect score. Now, as we scroll down to here, we know that Lighthouse gives us some really, really good information of how we can improve. For example, it says exactly what we need to do to make our app a progressive web app. It says that, hey, you don't really have any prompt to install a web app. So there's no icons or anything. People can't add it to their home screen and have a logo on their mobile phones, just like a regular app. There's also no splash screen, but all these other audits passed, including HTTPS and including service workers. This is the cool part because Create React app has progressive web app in mind and is always being updated with the best options for you. We have all of this done for us. We also have some cool features right out of the box, such as if I turn off my Wi-Fi and I refresh, look at that. We don't have an empty page with nothing in it with that little dinosaur that you get in Google Chrome. This app is actually working. I mean, we're not loading our robots because we're making an API request. We could technically add that API request so it works offline as well. But if I click on the count button, look at that. This app is still working. And based on the type of app that we have, we could have an offline app that still works. And every time I refresh, I still get this app. Very cool. Now, with any other website that isn't a progressive web app, let's go to my favorite website, Wait, But Why? You see that there's no internet connection. We get absolutely nothing. Although, just a fun little trick, if you hit spacebar here, you get a little dinosaur game that you can jump around in. Very cool. All right, this is getting a little addictive. But you see that this is not a progressive web app. Ours is. And we get that out of the box with Create React app. Very, very cool. Let's turn this back on. We definitely need our internet. Again, if we go back to the app, and let's make this smaller, we see that we have the register service worker here. Out of the box, created by Create React app, and it has everything set up for us. And then we have a few other things that we need to fix. In the next video, we're going to start working on this and chipping away and trying to get these scores perfect. But so far, so good. We even got HTTPS straight out of the box because of GitHub Pages. For now, though, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.